Awesome. Good evening, everyone. If everyone would rise for the pledge of allegiance, okay? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you everyone for coming out this evening. Our first order of business is a public hearing. I'm going to be juggling between different computers and devices with all my things here. So our first order of business is a public hearing regarding Nature's Miracle LLC located at 161 in Comfort Road. There are two active applications for this business. One is for medical cannabis registered caregiver new cultivation, and the other is for medical cannabis registered caregiver, medical caregiver retail storage. I want to provide a little bit of background on this before we go ahead and open up to public comment. In May of 2023, the town council amended chapter 140-67.3 performance standards and local licensing requirements for medical cannabis registered caregivers. And that was enacted, as I said, in May of 2023. And that is essentially why we are here this evening. This is the first, if I remember correctly, the first medical cannabis business that is going through this process, and this is our first public hearing of this nature. I'm going to lay out the ground rules and I'll open up to the public. If anyone did not sign in and would like to speak, there's few enough people here, I can just call on you. And then we have stacked up several emails and phone calls that we've also received. And kind of depending on the sentiment that I hear from folks this evening, I will either read everyone's email verbatim, or I will just say, we also heard from this person who is in favor or not in of the business. All right, I think that is it. Is there any other color that anybody would like to add before we get started?
Rules of the public hearing.
Thank you. Rules of the public hearing, each person will be given 3 minutes to speak. We will use a timer, and we'll give everybody one opportunity to speak. And then if people would like to come again, we'll kind of do the second round if necessary. I think it's also important to note that the applicant is not present at the moment. So we can go ahead and get started. So number one, that's Steve Bays.
Good evening, Madam Chair and councilors. I'm Steve Bays. I live at
State your name and address for everyone.
I'm Steve Bays. I live at 160 Ogunquit Road with my wife Leslie and teenage son. We are abutters of 161 Ogunquit Road. As we're given limited time, if there's a concern I don't mention that other people do, please don't interpret that as me not sharing that same concern. We purchased our home in 2010 when we purchased 7 acres in a rural residential zone. Prior to purchasing, some of the attributes we considered were the minimum lot size and the land uses in the R5 zone. My neighbors and I have been asking the town to address 161 Ogunquit Road since 2017. It was in that time frame that his cultivation operations began expanding, and it immediately became a nuisance. As you are well aware, over the past 7 years, we have been in contact with the various town managers, town councilors, CEOs, and planning board members in an attempt to understand how it had been allowed and why there had never been any enforcement of the ordinances related to the continued expansion of his cultivation and then the retail store. Concerns I had with the application itself, per the performance standards of the retail stores, for the caregiver retail stores. Most retail stores have to go through a site plan review with the planning board. Obviously, this store already exists, so we're skipping that, but just to understand that other stores have to go through that planning board site review process. It also says the applicant must provide evidence to the council of all land use approvals, including building permits. None of that documentation was provided with the application. No licenses should be granted until the police chief, fire chief, and code enforcement officer have all made positive statements regarding the applicant's ability to comply with town ordinances or state or federal law. No recommendations were included from the CEO or the police chief. I'll let the submitted police log for the property speak for itself. Concerning the retail store, I strongly oppose the town council considering or approving a license for the retail store. Per our land use tables, no retail is allowed in the R5 residential zone. The retail store was opened in 2020. The property file contains no records of building permits or change of use documentation. In December 2020, I first understood what was going on at the property, reached out to manager Ellsworth at the time and the town council. Manager Ellsworth replied stating, "We met yesterday with Eric," who's Mr. Bergendahl, "and explained that his storefront as such is not legal. As a caregiver, he is allowed to dispense to his clients, but cannot have a sign or other paraphernalia." It continued, "Storefronts are not allowed in that zone." The council may hear tonight, and some of you may have been led to believe that the retail store is grandfathered. State law is clear and only allows for registered caregivers who are operating a retail store with local approval prior to December 13th, 2018. The state defines what local approval is. The retail store at 161 did not exist in December 2018. In the fall of 18, Mr. Bergendahl was still trying to open a storefront in North Berwick. Again, the retail store at 161 did not start operation until the spring of 2020 in the residential R5 zone with no town approval. The care,
You have a
Okay.
written statement.
I will finish up later.
Okay.
Again, thank you.
Actually, but just continue, you can just finish it out.
The caregiver operation, I am strongly opposed to the town council considering or approving a license for the caregiver operation. In October 2022, two of his cultivations had burned. In December 2023, Mr. Bergendahl, without an active building permit, began construction on a much larger 66 by 24-foot, two-story building. In just 2 months, any claim he may have to restore that non-conforming use has expired. There's a 2-year limit in our ordinances. However, I believe that if he is ever to be able to finish that building, and based on his history, he will ignore the limits of our caregiver performance standards and begin cultivation in that new building as well, whether the town approves it or not. Per the standards, authorized municipal officials have the authority to enter the applicant's premises without notice to make inspections reasonably necessary to ensure compliance. I would recommend that the town have the fire chief, chief of police, and the CEO meet at Nature's Miracle tomorrow morning to inspect the buildings on the property and to determine what the square footage of his current operations are. That allows the town to draw a line in the sand and set the baseline of where he's at now in compared to what you might consider for his license. Our performance standard states a max of 700 square feet. I believe that he may already be exceeding that. There's a significant number of liens on the property, approximately 200,000 to the federal government, 145,000 mechanic lien to a local contractor, and approximately 3,000 to the State Department of Labor. Should the council consider approval of a caregiver license, I strongly recommend including as a condition a performance guarantee bond. As the value of his property is probably no more than these liens on it, who is going to clean up this mess if Mr. Bergendahl just walks away? For 7 years now, the cannabis operations at 161 have had a significant negative impact on the enjoyment of our property and our investment in South Berwick. The pride I once had of being a South Berwick resident has long been exhausted. I request this council start tonight to once again include the R5 zone as part of South Berwick. Do not accept or license what is clearly not allowed, and ensure that the town is adequately prepared to monitor and enforce what you do allow or license. Thank you. Do you have any questions for me? Thank you.
Right, if we could just keep it calm, so we can get through this, that would be great. I'm going to have Pat Robinson.
Pat Robinson at Brattle Street. I certainly can't follow him very well. He did that eloquently. I just want to say, I live on the other side of town from him, so it doesn't affect me personally. But I do drive down Algonquin Road occasionally at night. And I've always wondered, why is it open until midnight? No store's ever open till midnight, which means, who's driving down these rural roads, perhaps, after ingesting marijuana to affect their skills. Thank you.
Next, Sarah.
Tamara Steinhauer, 19 Hill Drive. I guess I don't understand why if he's technically not grandfathered in and he's in a zone that doesn't allow this, why are we talking about whether or not it should be allowed? So I think it should not be allowed.
Thank you. Paul Steiner?
Paul Steinhauer, 19 Hill Drive. While I am not an abutter, excuse me, I have some concerns on this particular application. It's not only controversial, the applicant himself, but as you said, as chair, that it's the first time we're going through this process. So very clearly, as a past chair of the South Berwick Planning Board, we live and die by table A, land use. What this applicant is applying for, I don't see it as applicable land uses according to table A. If it has been grandfathered, let's see the legal document for that. The council, in my opinion, has no legal standing in giving this permit unless you have legal documented proof that it is grandfathered. And even if it was grandfathered, it could be a caregiver and or a retail store. But I also see in the documentation that it says new cultivation. That is new, that is not grandfathered, and that is only allowed in the industrial zone. Furthermore, as I said before, I am not in the butter, but for performance standards, hours of operation, I feel horrible for any abutters along that road. Who will enforce the performance standards from 8 in the morning to 6 at night or something reasonable? Anything after 10 or 12 at night is not reasonable. It is unreasonable. So while I am not anti-business, I am not anti-marijuana, I am for enforcement of current documented land use ordinance in the town of South Berwick. And my fear is that if you go along with this without the appropriate documentation about any kind of grandfathering, you will be creating a very slippery slope and dangerous areas for setting a precedent for which you probably don't want to go into. Thank you.
Next we have Dick Crowley.
Good evening. My name is Dick Crowley. I live at 11 William Road. Good. Thank you for giving me the time to speak to the council during public session. I would like to ask that both licenses discussed being tonight be denied. The reason I think they should be denied are, one, to me, there is no need or shortage of medical cannabis stores in the area. Elliott, Kittery, Berwick, South Berwick all have medical marijuana stores. I don't believe any hardship is placed on anyone trying to get access to medical marijuana, should this be denied. We lost the town's only pharmacy, and it doesn't seem to be a concern about driving 1-2 towns over to get prescriptions. Why do we need another medical cannabis store when we can survive without any pharmacy at all? In June of 2021, the population overwhelmingly rejected the citizens' initiative to allow expansion of cannabis businesses in South Berwick. I think that the council should listen to what the town's population said in response to those two initiatives. I have lived in South Berwick for almost 30 years. One of the reasons that we chose to move to South Berwick was the atmosphere that exists in the neighborhoods. I think that allowing a business to build anywhere they want without regard for any zoning law, and this is any type of business, will degrade the quality of life that the town offers and reduce the value of the property of people that are adjacent to such businesses. I don't think that's fair. I especially don't want a neighbor running a business open till midnight. I am concerned that allowing a business to establish themselves without regard for zoning laws could set a dangerous precedence for other businesses trying to do the same thing. So in conclusion, I encourage you to deny both applications because I don't think there's a need for more cannabis stores. The townspeople did speak about their feelings during the citizens' initiatives. It degrades quality of life for people. I don't live next door, but if someone opened a business next to me, I would have the same type of problem, and it will set a bad precedent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Next we have Nancy Crowley.
I am Nancy Crowley at 11 William Road. I have nothing new to add because everyone has brought forth a lot of problems and issues with it. I agree with every one of them. Lights on till midnight, 7 days a week. I can't imagine living next door to that. And being in a residential area, having a business beside me, no matter what the business is, I wouldn't be happy with it. I think you need to follow the rules, the laws are there. And I think they need to go back and look and see what was done without any approvals or permits. And reconsider that. So I'm against it. Thank you.
Last on the sign-up list is Mark Zimmer.
Mark Zimmer, 72 Vine Street, here in support of Steve Bays. I'm against this license. I feel that, I would echo most of what he said, if not all of it, and, I think that it would devalue his property. I would be pretty upset if it was my property. And the part I don't understand is if there's, if there's statutes that are there to protect him and zoning laws, why it slipped through. I guess that's being resolved now, but that's about all I have to say. I just hope that you guys know what the story is and know where it's gonna go and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm done with my sign up sheet. We did have a few additional people join. Is there anyone who's came in late that would like to speak, as part of the public hearing? It's a good opportunity to do so. Okay, I will just quickly then, summarize. So over the past several days since we published the public hearing date, the council has heard from several other, residents who weren't able to make it this evening. We received a phone call from Marianne Minard, in opposition. She lives at 14 Beach Road in opposition of both licenses. Also from Scott Landis, located at 80 Academy Street in opposition of both. Up next, Bill Thomas and Jane Allfield, both located at 151 Ogunquit Road. Again, I'm summarizing here, but in opposition to both licenses. Up next, we have Jessica Sear, who still owns the property in South Berwick, and she expressed similar concerns as well. She's located at 37 Academy Street. Up next, we have Ilaria Zinzer, who is at Backacres Lane. I don't have her house number, but I know for certain she does live on Backacres Lane. Also in opposition of both licenses. And finally, Mimi Demmer is located at 132 Belmarsh Road in opposition. And lastly, Deb Ganster at, where's her address? 576 Memories Bridge Road, also in opposition. So tonight I have these, I'll give these to you to read into the record, but wanted to make sure everyone was aware that those came in as well. One last chance before we close this public hearing. Anyone else? Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. I'm Mary Breen, Old County Road, 52 Old County Road. I've lived there for 31 years, and I just want to support everyone else here who is in opposition to both applications. This is R5 zoning, and there's no room for this kind of business. And I'm still not clear why he's allowed to have a retail shop open till midnight on a windy country road in South Berwick. But I just want to support everybody else's comments. Thank you for the time.
Yes, thank you. Any other takers? Okay, it is 6:19. We will go ahead and close the public hearing for the evening, and we'll shift over to our Board of Assessors meeting. So just a reminder, the town council is also the Board of Assessors, and every August we have the fun activity of setting the municipal tax rate. So our first order of business is to go through and do that. So in our supporting documents, we have, and for anyone who has viewed them, we have a one-page, very colorful with lots of charts that lays out the different scenarios that are available to us. And I'm going to look to town manager and finance director. Is there any explanation you all would like to share on this before we?
So we presented the council, the Board of Assessors. After we have, after the town passed the budget, match new growth and the assessment review, we combined all that and give a proposed impact the homeowner as well as the cost of what it would pay to mill rate. Mill rate is the tax rate set by the town board of assessors. We provided the chart, the state law, the state tax calculation formula. Will allow us, right now, we're currently at 1396. We can go from set the mill rate with the revenues that we've had, the cost of the school, county tax, and the budget, we can set the mill rate anywhere from 1320 to 1386. In doing so, looking at the potential where we're going through the reval right now, we use the overlay for funding refunding abatements. Myself and the assistant town agent and the assessor got together. We've determined that we recommend and feel that at this point, 1342 mill rate, which would be almost a 50-cent drop, would be applicable for this year, which would leave us about 300,000 in the overlay for potential abatements. When I did this in the previous reval and another community I worked in, the 2 years after we did that, one year we had 68 abatements, and the year following we had about 55. So the abatements significantly increased because obviously people have challenges with the new valuation on their property. So we're going into that time, we're going into 26 and 27, starting next year when the reval is done, so. My recommendation is 1342.
Okay, thank you, Tim. Does the council, do you have any questions on that suggestion? Okay, I'm just gonna kind of restate, Tim, what you said, so everyone's super clear. So, as many people know, I'm sure we are in the process of doing our entire reevaluation of our entire town, which is going to change people's property values. And so because of that, we do expect that there's going to be a larger number of people requesting tax abatement, due to the reevaluation. So we're kind of proactively planning ahead for that to make sure that we've got some extra money set aside for those payments that we expect to come in. And then additionally, I think this is the third or fourth year in a row that we've actually lowered TDS, the mill rate.
All the 5 years I've been a part of this process, it's always gone down.
Yeah, we've been consistently lowering the mill rate year over year for the past several years, and that doesn't always equate to a lower tax bill for everybody, unfortunately, because it's a math game of taking into account your property value as well as the tax rate. But I think we just continue to manage this town financially extremely well and set ourselves up for success. So, and I think this is another example of we're thinking ahead and putting money aside to anticipate those abatements that most likely will come in, so. I'm on board with the recommendation of the town manager, any other, discussion, suggestion? Okay, I will go ahead and make a motion to set the tax rate for FY 24, thank you, FY 24-25 at 13.42.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. We'll do a roll call vote. Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa?
I,
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you, everyone. And then what generally follows after we set the tax rate is the signing the York County Assessor's return. This is a very kind of annual administrative task. So I'll go ahead and make a motion to sign the York County's Assessor's return for FY 24-25.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa?
I,
John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, at 6:25, that wraps up our Board of Assessors meeting, and now we'll move on to the official town council meeting. We have 4 councilors present. We only have 4 councilors now.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
point of order. Have to make a motion to close the assessors meeting and then open the council.
thank you very much. I will go ahead and make a motion to close the assessors meeting at 6:25 PM.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor, Jeff? Melissa? John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. Thank you for the reminder, Tim. Okay, roll call to order. We have 4 counselors present. I will also do a shameless plug here. We have 4 counselors present. We have 1 seat open that is up for election in November. We need another counselor. And we thank Jessica here very much for her service, and we wish her the best of luck. She's here tonight. Okay, moving on, approval of the following minutes, from our town council meeting on, July 3rd. Any edits to these minutes from anyone?
Madam Chair, I move we accept the town council meeting minutes for July 23rd, 2024 as written.
Second. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye, Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. John?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. And our last minute, our next 7 minutes is from the public hearing from last week on, August 6th, regarding town hall. Any edits to these? I'll go ahead and make a motion to, sign or adopt the minutes from the public hearing on August 6th, 2024, as written.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. One point that I would like to add is that, for the public hearing last week, we did also receive a decent number of email communication. That has been posted to the town hall project page. There's one file there that consolidates all of those emails. I think on the front page, there's like a summary of all the people. So, in addition to the minutes here on town hall, we also heard a lot from folks being. All right, that's their minutes, and we'll go into the treasurer's warrant. Yes. Did we not vote? Sorry. All those in favor of signing the minutes from the public hearing on August 6th, say aye. Jeff? Aye. Melissa? Aye. John?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. What would I do without you? Okay, now we're on to the treasurer's warrant. We have 2 warrants because we're still kind of in the fiscal year transition phase with the fiscal year closing. So the first warrant, I'm assuming the smaller one is for the prior fiscal year. So the first warrant is, I'll make a motion to sign the treasurer's warrant, the amount of $126,105.72 from August 8th, 2024. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor of signing this treasurer's warrant, say aye. Jeff? Aye. Melissa? Aye. John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. And up next, we have the larger one for this current fiscal year. I'll make a motion to sign the treasurer's warrant dated August 9th, 2024, in the amount of $1,036,174.83.
Second.
Thank you. Motion and a second. I will point out that this warrant does include the school payment, which is now at $803,234. All those in favor of signing the treasurer's warrant, say aye. John? Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, next order of business, reports and presentations. We're lucky to have, Aaron Dan here from Sweetser. And also just want to point out, we just have a minor typo on our agenda. We have the Sweetser liaison here this evening.
Thank you. I thought that was a really funny new title.
We can make your name tag.
So my name is Erin McGann. I am with Sweetser and I'm with the Options Program. The Options Program is a substance use risk reduction program. And one of the ways we reduce risk is with Narcan, which I gave all of you a box here this evening, and I'm going to give you a 2-minute training. It probably will last less than 2 minutes. And then I'm gonna thank Chief Ruger very much for bringing me on to the department. So Narcan is used for when anybody is overdosing on any kind of opiate. Opiates are things like oxycodone, fentanyl, hydrocodone, so they can be prescribed by your doctor. It can be something that your pets or your kids can get into, and Narcan is completely safe for use on anybody. So as soon as you realize that somebody has maybe having an overdose, you're gonna wanna open up that box, and there's a little plastic thing in there. You tear that open, and you're gonna pull out something that looks like this. Looks exactly like this, actually. And you're gonna take this, and you're gonna stuff it as far up their nose as you can. Right? So you might have to work it up there as far as you can, and you're gonna push the little plunger. You'll hear a little click. Don't worry, I clean these off after every time I use that. You're gonna hear a little click, and that means that the stuff has gone up their nose. You're gonna call 911 right then.
okay? And after you call 911, if they're not responding, I want you to open up the other bottle and stick it up their other nostril and do another shot up there. What this does is it stops the opiate receptors in your brain from accepting any more opiates. So it stops any overdoses in its track. It does wear off after 30 minutes though, and if there's still opiates in somebody's system, they can re-overdose. So we want to make sure that 911 gets there, and, you know, helps them through this all the way. Luckily, since I have been an options liaison, in South Berwick, we have not had to use any Narcan, but I am currently the supplier of all the Narcan for all the police departments in Southern Maine, because it's a requirement that all police departments and police officers carry this on them. And they don't necessarily have the funds to buy it themselves, and for whatever reason, the state's not supplying it, so it's me. I'm the pusher of Narcan. And I want to thank Chief Ruger very, very much for lobbying with Sweetser to have a liaison here in the town. So my office is at the police department. I help people with mental health problems. I help people with substance abuse problems. I really help people with pretty much anything they want to talk about. So if any of y'all want to just call me, you can. But my goal is to divert people from going into crisis. So I am trained as a crisis. I worked mobile crisis before I did options. I can do crisis assessments. I can help people get inpatient hospitalization if that's what they need. My goal is to get people before they get to that point, before they get to the point of overdosing, before they get to the point of needing hospitalization. I am not a counselor. I'm not a licensed counselor, although I am going to school for it. But I can help you find a licensed counselor. I can help you get services. I can help you figure out what your next steps are. If you come to me and you're drinking too much and you don't want to quit drinking, that's fine with me. We're gonna have a conversation of how you can reduce that risk. Maybe you only drink at home so that you're not out driving. Same thing with if you're using any kind of drugs or even smoking, I can help you with all of those things. And again, it's all about risk reduction for me. I do not judge anybody. You are just accept you how you are. Like a better formula of your family. Like if you want to come in your jammies to the police department, come in your jammies. We can do that. But Chief Ruger did lobby. You guys do not pay for this service, throughout of the town budget at all. It is paid for from Sweetser funds. I am an employee of Sweetser, so please come and use my services. I have business cards here. You all have business cards. If anybody who's listening on Zoom or TV or whatever we're on, doesn't know how to get in touch with me, you can call the police department and they can give you my phone number. Although I'm housed there, I'm really not there that often because I try to be out in the community, talking to people, seeing what is out there, seeing what kind of services people need. If anybody does want to have a Narcan training at their office, at their senior center, at their gym, you know, with their knitting group, whatever, just give me a holler because I will do that as well. Again, my goal is just risk reduction and getting the word about my position and about the things I can offer out into the community is my entire goal here. So, thank you so much for your time tonight. I know you guys are really, really busy. Does anybody have any questions?
No, but thank you for what you've done. I have
Thank you.
great things already from Chief. for what you've done.
Thank you. I'll give you that $20 later. Thank you.
For everything you do.
Thank you so much. And thank you all for letting me speak tonight.
Yes, thank you for coming. Okay, all right, we're gonna move on to public comments. So this time is for, any items that are not on the agenda. I just want to remind everybody that public comment is, I need each person to state their name and address, if you limit to 3 minutes. All speakers will follow the rules of comment etiquette, including refraining from vulgar or abusive language, yelling, arguing, or disrespectful behavior. Comments or complaints against employees, elected officials will not be allowed. I have a gavel, I will use it. Who would like to come up and speak for public comments? Anyone? Okay. All right, we'll move on to unfinished business then. Number one, the town hall project. So just to recap, we did have a public hearing last week on Tuesday. We had another public hearing, well over a year ago in June, regarding this building. We have, been working really closely with Oak Point and Lassell, architects to come up with a plan for this building that was presented last week to the public. You'll see these fancy boards here if you want to get the details on, what the layout would look like and budget as well. We heard from several people at the public hearing last week, and as I mentioned before, we also heard from several additional folks, via email. And if I am remembering correctly, every single one of those comments was in full support of renovating this building, including the nice to have. I think we had 1 or 2 who were one or two folks who were more in favor of just doing the base project, so not doing the nice to have. And we did have one person who was more in favor of building new. That is the general sentiment from everyone, and I think I want to point out is that I think a lot of the emails in particular that we received from folks were kind of like very short and sweet to the point of like, hey, we love it, the plan looks great, but we want to say even more so, we appreciate the process and the transparency and how we went about doing this. And so I just want to say, before we even take any action, I'm just really proud of the council and the staff and how we have conducted this project and how we got to where we're at now. It seems like most of the residents are very happy that we listened and pivoted and made a change and took a different path. And I'm just really proud of us for getting to this evening. So that kind of summarizes the results of the public hearing. I'm curious, council, do you guys have any other thoughts or anything you want to add after the public hearing?
So after the emails, after the public hearing, we'll see if I can, sorry. So after the public hearing and emails we received, I'm still of the adage of it's cheaper to do it while we have it and it's being done. So I'm good with the nice to have, because again, it's cheaper while they're here than having to back in 2 years to finish it, so. I'm good.
Anyone else have any thoughts to share?
I don't have too much to add. I think I'm the same camp as what John just mentioned. Yeah. Well,
Given that, I think that we've set ourselves up well. I'll go ahead and make a motion to go ahead and, I'll make a motion to go ahead and move forward with the plans as presented by Oak Point and Last Architects, over the past week, including the nice to have is our, go forward plan for the town hall. Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other? I will just add, so I know that, I just want to talk about the process real quick before we vote. I will remember to do the vote. Is that we have kind of left this decision and how this decision would actually happen a little bit open-ended based on public input. And so I know, like Tamara in particular, I know you had questions in the past on kind of how does this decision happen? And so, I think given the public input that we received, the town council clearly feels comfortable kind of saying, okay, we understand the public feels in terms of what we want to do with this project. So we are making a decision with the motion we just made to say, this is our plan, we are going to renovate. And then jumping ahead a little bit, but I think our next motion after this one would be to make a motion to consult with our attorney to make sure that we get the language correct, so we can put language on the ballot in November to fund this project. So that will probably most likely be our next course of action. I just wanted to clarify that a little bit. So we have a motion and a second on the table. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. And our next order of business, I will say, is to, make a motion to authorize the town manager to consult with our attorney to draft language for the ballot in November to fund the project that we will review at our next meeting.
Second.
Discussion.
Oh, hang on. In that motion.
Yep.
You should put. You need to put it all.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
So you'll need to, one of those motions needs to have it all. So we'll present that. When you took it.
What is it? Does anyone have the super specific dollar amount in front of them at the moment?
Right there behind Diane on the board.
Oh, thank you. So green.
Diane, can you grab that, bring that over?
I think it's 7, something 2 6. Thank you. Yes. All right, I'll amend that last motion. I'll make a motion to authorize the town manager to work with the town attorney to draft language for the November 5th ballot in order to fund the project in the estimated amount of $7,351,000.
Second.
Any discussion? Tim, is that good?
Yep. Okay.
All right, all those in favor?
Just for clarity purposes. In this process, with what we received from Oak Point and Lassell, We asked an estimate from them. Now, that does not guarantee that they will get the work correct, and there still is a possibility that we could send this out to bid and it could actually be cheaper. Is that a possibility?
Potentially, yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to.
I mean, I think that that was our experience with the police station. I think we came in well under budget on the police station, right? We did.
So the next step in the process would be for us to draft the warrant question with the attorney. Present that to you at the next council meeting, which you would have to vote and approve to put on the warrant ballot in November. Then it goes to the ballot after November. Then from there, the next decision will be your decision to decide what you do next. Whether you continue with Old Point and the process you have, or scrap that and start all over again with the 7.5 million, redesign it, do it all over again, invest that money, do, or hire a new architect, or whatever. But the next step will be to get someone to, you'll have to hire an architect to design the project. That will be formal. With that, then they can, once they design the project, because these are conceptual designs, right? We need to have, they'll need to hire an architectural firm based either on this project or whatever else you want. And so now we have 7.5 million to spend, design is this. And it could be Old Point, like you said, you could open it up to somebody else to choose. If you don't choose Old Point, then they design the project, then they take that, they'll put that out to bid sometime in the spring for construction contractors to bid on it and see what they get back for bids and negotiations and so forth. Then again, you will have the representatives of the citizens of the town. You'll have the vote to choose, you'll have 3 or 4, contractors who will set prices. You'll have the choice to choose this. And then they'll award that and begin the process.
Right, we have a motion on the table. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa? Aye. John?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. I think that takes care of the town hall project item for this evening. Thank you everyone who participated in this effort, who submitted feedback at the public hearing, who sent emails. We just really appreciate all of the input and participation for the community. Up next is number 2, unfinished business comprehensive plan update. Is this? You call or you?
Me.
You, okay.
So it's just, you see the information I sent you, basically, our plan's been accepted by the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. They reviewed the plan is complete and consistent. I also see that in their letter, they're making some recommendations. So myself and Jen and Paul met. Paul's gonna take the lead on this. He'll be meeting with Reagan Young from SMPDC. They'll be looking at the recommendation. Paul said the changes are very minor. Some of them are just words. Others could be a spelling stuff and things. They're gonna look at which ones they want to change and put in. Get that drafted, put that in the plan. Once that's completed, the administration will be presenting the plan to the council sometime in September for formal adoption in the public hearing.
We'll just have to go back to the state after, we'll make the revisions and then go back or no?
No, we're done.
Okay.
This is, they pass it and, the changes that they're recommending are so minor, they're suggestions.
Got it. Okay. Awesome. So it seems like, we're getting there with closing out the comprehensive plan.
I want to thank the people who did that project. That was very, comprehensive plan, a lot of work, a lot of effort, a lot of moving pieces, and I want to thank everybody who did that. I know she's not here now, she's certainly about this, but Jessica said had a lot to do with that, and she put a lot of hours into that, so. I just want to make that known, comprehensive plan, a lot of work, it's tough to, all the plans we do, including that, renovation plan. So, but I just wanted to pass on the getting that done was important.
Absolutely. All right, that was an information only item, so no action for us. So we'll go ahead and move on to number 3, for action regarding Nature's Miracle LLC, 161 Gunkford Road, regarding the public hearing that just took place. So now that we've had a public hearing on these 2 license applications, Now it's up to the council, for us to discuss and kind of decide where we want to go from here. Would anyone like to get us started?
So. To start the beginning of this. When I got here, I was informed that 161 Bumper Road was grandfathered in as a medical marijuana caregiver business. By previous code officer, he had stated that. That was because that business was in operation in May of 2016, I think. And that at the time, state law didn't take effect in 2018, that's how that was grandfathered. As far as the retail business. I have looked at. I have received complaints from. Abutters as well as citizens. So I started to do research, I've been researching for the last 6 months, I've read all previous council minutes I could get to see and read, I've read planning board minutes, I've looked at documents. The research of file, myself and Jen have researched all the old minutes all the way back to as far as I can go back. I can't find a formal document authorizing the retail business. At 161, I'm not saying that it's allowed or it's not allowed, I just can't find anything. In the town ordinance and the town code, land use ordinance, you would have to, in order to have a retail establishment in R5, there's no such thing as grandfather. That retail establishment would have to be approved by some board or some authorization body, either the planning board, the town council through non-conforming law. I also had the code officer, do some of the same research. And she said, and I to attach the same, I think, the same issue. That we were unable to find any documentation, doesn't mean it doesn't exist, that I don't have it, I just can't find anything. In the spirit of being honest and open to the citizens, both for and against this business. I can't find any documentation that anybody allowed. The only thing I did find is a reference a document from 2017 where Joe Russell writes this was in the file, that he got a complaint of Mr. Bergendahl expanding his operation of medical marijuana growing. I stopped by and spoke with Eric's brother and his electrician. I asked if Eric was home. They explained that he was working. I told him I was there and he told me that did not happen. I mean, the only thing they've done was put in heat pumps and for heat and air conditioner. They said they would not only go through the house without Eric, I agreed. They did say nothing has gone in the new building. They had upgraded the electric service of the building, so that was in the file. The only other thing that I was able to come across was the email. That Mr. Bay's reference that I put in your packet. That talks about. Previous town manager meeting with Eric Bergendahl. Telling him that. He could not store and assign, it's not allowed. In that district. Also, you'll find in the packet, that there's not a reference from the police chief. The chief is here tonight to speak on that himself. So, I'll have him do that. I, at this point, have just want to tell the board that I have researched all that I can find, and everything I have presented to the council. There could be other documents out there, but through everything I have searched myself, as a town manager, current code enforcement officer, the current clerk, previous clerk, we have not been able to find. I have searched up and down for a document that would show either allowing a business retail business in R5 or a grandfather business in R5. And I, to this point, have not been able to find. Okay, vote any, you agree with that?
Yep. Did you want to, was Chief or even saying, you made it seem like you were in front of the chief.
Well, I'd like to have the chief speak on the number of, one of the chief was required to present something on this license, and I don't believe he did.
Yeah, go ahead, thank you.
Yeah, I did not do a write-up on that 161 Agunko Road.
Looking at the different past history, I did a study on every medical marijuana establishment in this town. And as you guys have posted, there is just multiple calls to 161 Augusta Road. The other three, Easygoing Cannabis had literally 3 calls for service, but they weren't about the establishment. Wisely Cannabis had 2, but they weren't, one was an alarm call and one was just an animal complaint. So it did not involve Wisely Cannabis. The other one, Pied Cow, there was 4 calls for service. It was 2 alarms and just 3 alarms, I'm sorry. And a follow-up that did not have to do with the business itself, but with the building of another tenant. So at this point, I also looked into the state law, and as far as running a medical marijuana establishment, you cannot sell retail out of the same building. That's why if you look at Kind Farms, they have 2 separate buildings. That's what I have to say.
Thank you.
Also, Madam Chair, our attorney Phil Bosnier is on Zoom. If we have any questions, please.
Great. Mr. Virgo, I know that you were not able to hear, or you were a little late for the public hearing. I would like to give you an opportunity if there's anything you would like to share as the applicant. It's okay.
You gotta come to the mic.
Yeah, we want to make sure everything gets picked up on the recording.
Hi, so what was
Sorry, can you
the,
introduce yourself?
excuse me, what?
Could you just introduce yourself?
Eric Bergendahl, thank you. Chief, 161 Algonquin Road, South Berwick. Chief, what were you referring to about the amount of calls? Right, so could that relate to the problems I was having? I'm sorry. Could that relate to the problem that I was having
I'm
with
sorry,
the
excuse me, we have a point of order.
alarm service?
Mr. Virgo, we have a point of order.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'll comment, going to that chair.
yes. If you could direct your comments towards me, and then we can relay them to the.
I was curious what he was citing about the amount of calls.
Yeah, so it included in the packet, included for the public hearing is 3 pages of all of the calls that have been made at 161 Augusta Road over 2017, it looks like.
Right, and that was because I was having a problem with the alarm system.
Well,
I'm
it's
assuming.
a piece of, it's an artifact that was included. Yes, it does list that there are a vast number of alarm issues, but there are also other items that are included as well. But it does, to your point, it does specify which ones were related to the alarm and which ones weren't.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hi, Seth Russell, attorney for Eric Bergendahl. First, I'd just like to start that I appreciate you guys' time today and hearing us.
Excuse me, sorry, could you state your name again for the record?
Yes, sorry, it's Seth Russell.
I need you guys to make sure your mouth is like on, like.
I'll get right up
Make
in
sure
there.
everyone in the room can hear. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I thank you guys for being here today and taking the time. I also appreciate you being understanding, given the miscommunication on the timing of the public hearing. I did not receive the public hearing packet. I met with Tim, I think it was 3 weeks ago, regarding a meeting that we thought was the public hearing. We arrived, I talked with Tim, gave him my information. I did not get that packet though. So unfortunately, I can't address everything that's in that packet. Further, at that conversation with Tim, we discussed the grandfather issue that we've been going over since I've been Eric's attorney. I believe that goes back to 2019, 2020. My understanding was that this matter was settled at this point, that there was I believe there was a building permit at one point that did show that the enclosed porch was going to be used for a retail store. And that through the various planning board meetings that we've attended and the subsequent conversations, this matter was put to rest and that it was determined that he was grandfathered. If that had been an issue, it would have been something that would have been nice to know when we presented our application to the board for approval at that time. And in our discussions with the town, so we could adequately prepare for this hearing today. I just wanted to also address one of the statements that the police chief made about retail being sold in the same building. I think that's a misconception on the difference between adult use and medical medical use. It is true that an adult use and medical cannot be sold in the same building, but a medical retail store can be attached to the cultivation site. That's a pretty standard practice and also one of the requirements for dispensaries. As to the calls, again, I don't have the record. I have not been able to review them. I do know that there was an ongoing dispute and issue, we'll say, with a disgruntled neighbor, Mr. Bailey's, sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. I don't know what number of calls that accounts for. I believe that a number of the complaints from him were the lights and potential sign, which I also believe have been addressed. Bigger to the point, as far as I know, Eric has continuously worked with the town in transparency and talking with you guys, coming before you before he does anything. He's worked hard to make sure that his shop is fully compliant, that he is working with the town and that you guys are in support of what he's doing. He takes hard effort in doing that. He has stopped certain endeavors that he wished to do because it was clear that it was not what the town wanted to do. And I think that that's incredibly important in this kind of business and in any business relationship with the town. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anything to add, Eric? I will just go ahead and say, in my opinion, the issue is this business is located in R5, and Table A clearly states that a retail business is not allowed in Zone 5 without a major site plan review by the planning board. So in my opinion, what you could be selling shoes or purses or whatever is a retail business in a residential area, which based on the way our ordinances are structured, that is not allowed without a major site plan review step with the planning board. That is my opinion. That is how I will be voting on the retail store portion of this license issue. I don't know if anyone wants to add anything there.
If I may, my understanding is that the non-conforming use status also clarifies that any non-conforming use may continue to use in that area as a non-conforming use, including all operations, which would include a business retail store. And at the time that he opened, I do not believe that that ordinance was at issue. Given cite the number of permits, the NOVs that he were initially issued and then followed up on and inspected. If that was an issue, he wouldn't be happy to go through a review. But I don't think that should be something that should prohibit him from getting his licensing and continuing his grandfathered use.
Council, does anyone have anything you would like to add or discuss? I think we should address this in two buckets. We should address the retail store piece as one item, action item, and the medical caregiver license as a separate motion.
They have to be separate.
Completely separate, yep.
And with the research Tim has done, I've been sitting here for 10 years, so I've been sitting here through all of this just about. Tim interviewed me. I haven't seen anything, again, in writing from anybody. I've been told it was grandfathered from Perry at one point, the past town manager. But again, there's nothing in writing stating this was ever done. I don't believe the building permits that we've researched have given anything to retail business area. So I don't see how we can authorize retail business in our life.
So, yeah, before us is it's the application. And part of this is for consideration of the application, please submit documentation.
Real close.
We'll submit documentation for the following in the application, which was submitted by Bert Dahl. Sorry. There are a number of boxes that were not checked off. So in my mind, I see this application as incomplete. I'm hearing arguments about the word grandfather. I'm not a master expert of our town ordinances, but I have yet to find the word grandfather or grandmother or any sort of grandfather wording with definition in our ordinance. So that's. But I too have been hearing that same word tossed around from former counselors and former people about this. And I think it just derailed us, right? So at the end of the day, like, what I get down to is, past planning board's approval of finding of that. I don't think we saw any of those things in the application. Maybe I missed it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Madam Chair.
I don't believe that those were included either, findings of fact, or because this hasn't come before the planning board, so it wouldn't have been findings of fact.
There's no finding of fact, it doesn't.
Yeah. No findings of fact.
So yeah, that and that's where I said, I guess, and I'm not convinced that, the argument of grandfathering, quite frankly, I think is fantasy. I don't accept that until I see state law from me that I need to grandfather, because I don't see it. I don't see it now. And I'm not fully aware of state definition for grandfathering. That's sort of where I'm leaning, as far as the whole thing.
Unless you have anything or choose.
I'm not ashamed to admit when something is over my head. And, the council, the planning board committees, worked long and hard on our medical marijuana ordinance. And so, in my interpretation of, do these businesses follow the guidelines of the ordinance? In some ways, yes, in some ways, no. When something is over my head, I prefer to deflect to experts, and I was actually wondering if we might be able to ask code enforcement officer Jenny McCabe how she feels about just the compliance, if it's a possibility. I didn't know if that's about boundaries, or if you would mind speaking, Jenny.
If you are comfortable, then go for it.
Oh, it's fine. What is your specific question?
This is Jenny McCabe, our.
Oh, sorry, Jenny McCabe, Code Enforcement Officer, Town of South Berwick. What is your actual question?
Okay, so, actually, it was, Mr. Steinhauer that kind of piqued my brain of, with the whole, on number one, medical cannabis registered caregiver. Again, the term grandfathered has been thrown around, but then Paul made the comment and it says new cultivation on site. So with that being said, does it follow the guidelines of our ordinances, as I think it does?
Yeah, so the application that you're looking at is actually set up in a way that everyone who owns any cultivation or retail storefront is gonna have to come in front of you to renew their license or grant their license. You're gonna see quite a few of them because the ordinance is new and this is the new application. So he's not really applying for a new cultivation on site. He's actually applying for a renewal license. And he has to check off new. They all do as they come in front of you because it's a new licensing that they're gonna have to get filled out to be able to come here, like to have approved by you.
More than about our process being new.
That's right.
And actually, we're like applying for a new.
Yes, and Mr. Bergendahl can speak to it better, but there is already cultivation that's being done on site now. Are you cultivating on site currently? So he already is doing that. Is that all you have for me? Okay, go ahead. Yeah. Okay, so the cultivation part definitely is. So you can cultivate anywhere in our town. So under a registered caregiver, absolutely. And our attorney or Mr. Bergendahl's attorney can speak better on that. Obviously, I'm not an attorney. What isn't allowed use in the R5 zone is the retail portion of that. So what happens under retail, right? So for cultivation, my understanding of the law, correct me if I'm wrong, you can grow in all stages. You can take your marijuana, whatever the legal term for that is, and you can make it into edibles, ice cream, all the things. You on site can sell to your customers anything that you
produce on site, make on site. What you can't sell on site is the paraphernalia that goes along with the rest of it. Which makes it a store. Does that make sense, or do you need more? I'm gonna do the best I can to explain it to you. Sorry, Jeff. And Jenny, in that scenario that you're talking about, that would not involve a sign, correct? Correct, yeah. Yep. So Mr. Bergendahl could go and he could deliver his product, or people could come to his house. It's an accessory use to the house, right? So people could come to his house and buy his product, but he can't have a sign in our zoning ordinance. He, can't have hours of operation that are listed, things like that. However, according to state law, he can sell his products that he grows or, makes on site 24/7.
I just refresh me, because I think I'm right, but you never know, usually wrong. There is a square footage that goes along with the caregiver also. Correct?
Yeah, that'd be in our ordinance. We wrote that.
700.
We talked in depth about that. Yeah, definitely. And Mr. Bergendahl is aware of that square footage. It depends on again, my understanding of the state law, correct me if I'm wrong, it depends on different stages of those plants, whether they're budding, flowering, whatever. If that's the same term, that's doing the same thing, I don't really know, but that's, how it goes. Well, that's anything for Jenny. Thank you so much for being excellent. Yep.
Thank
All right. Anyone else? Council, any other discussion? I'll go ahead and, make a motion first for the retail portion of this. I'll make a motion to, approve the, all right, trying to find the right language. Right, second. Okay, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the application, for 161 Gunford Road for the, registered caregiver retail store application.
Second.
Second, so a motion and second on the table, just to note that I did, the language there was to approve it. So all those in favor, say aye, if not, say nay. Jeff?
No.
John?
Okay.
Melissa?
No,
No, motion does not pass. 0-4. And up next, the second, license on the table is for the medical registered caregiver license, which we have, as just discussed. This is not something that we can, this is something is allowed in the R5 district. And is required to follow our ordinance to 750 square feet, we have just discussed, et cetera. So, do we want to discuss at all the medical caregiver licensing aspect of this? There's not much we can do here, in my.
There's not a lot of room for what the state allows, they just have to follow what we have for guidelines. Set.
So the two items on the table were the retail store aspect would be addressed, and then the second piece is, built into our ordinance is a requirement for, applicants, for folks to apply for an application for a license for medical, to essentially be a medical cannabis registered caregiver, to be able to grow on your property and to be able to sell on your property, as Jenny just explained.
Madam Chair, yeah, just some clarification on the last motion. The last motion on the failed, I think was to approve the license, the application. Was that for the new cultivation on site?
It was for the retail.
So that was just going back on the agenda, that was the second item.
Oh, did I go over? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to confirm that
Yes,
that's what that vote was for.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much.
Just for the retail store, thank you. So we're going a little bit out of order. So the second order would be for a medical cannabis registered caregiver. New cultivation on site is what is listed on the agenda, but it's important to note it's not for new cultivation that's above and beyond what's already happening. This is new because our process is new and the applicant is looking for a license to comply with our ordinance.
I have some comments.
Yeah,
I guess, so. Yeah, so this is, if I'm clear, this is for, application for medical cannabis registered caregiver. Our ordinance in, 140, 67, 3. B. Subsection 3. There's no license shall be granted by the licensing authority till the police chief, fire chief, and code enforcement officer all made positive recommendations regarding the applicant's ability to comply with this section or any other applicable town ordinance. And continue. I bring that up because I saw in here, something from the fire chief, basically saying, you gotta not box, thank you very much. Code enforcement, feel like there was some sort of general acceptance. I don't want to just classify them, characterize that, but I thought like, okay, that's good. But what we heard from the chief today, I didn't feel like that was a positive recommendation. So that's where one of the questions that, where my hang up is right now. Currently.
anyone else have any, you want to say? Discussion? I just want to keep this moving.
I just wanted to actually ask, Councilwoman, again, you mentioned that you noticed some, concerns with the actual application itself, that you felt it was incomplete. Was that for the retail store or was that for the new cultivation on-site application? Do you know?
Jen's gonna clarify some question real quick.
So the things that are not checked off on that application is because, again, they don't exist or we don't have them. So, some things on the checklist, can I just borrow your papers for 1 second? So some of the things, if you don't have the packet that aren't checked off, is attaching planning board's approval and findings of facts for each. It doesn't exist. Attaching a approved building permit and certificate of occupancy if applicable. It doesn't exist in what he has now. He does have a building permit to rebuild that cultivation that he had on site for a fire. But this isn't, there's no building permit or certificate of occupancy for the building that's being used right now in the file. It doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means town hall doesn't have it. We would have it. And then attach a letter of method of sewage disposal and water supply for proposed site, schedule of septic pumping, it's almost fall, for 5 years must be included if the private system. And, so Mr. Bergendahl had his septic pumped 2 years ago. So it is recommended with a septic his size that he has it pumped every 2 years. So he'll have to prove to the town before he gets a CO for his new building that he had that septic pumped, so he can move on with that, just to clarify.
And I don't want to take over your question. So you mentioned that it's not available. Right, but first to be there, right?
Yeah, the findings of fact for planning board approval doesn't exist, so it's not available.
And so the finding fact does not exist because it's not available because it's never come before the planning board.
That's correct. But a
So-
cultivation doesn't need to, and that's where this application gets a little bit weird with all the different, so if you're not looking at the application, but you're in the crowd or you're at home, this covers, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different uses. So there are things that are gonna be on that checklist that are non-applicable. The planning board approval is one of them because it's a medical registered cultivation. If it was a retail, it would be different. Just to give you a heads up, that's where we go with that.
Well, I mean,
You know, I love the applications.
Are you all set with me? Okay?
Yes, I think.
all right, so our next, course of action is what do we want to do with the, medical caregiver, medical cannabis registered caregiver, new cultivation on-site license. My take on this is that I think that this is something that, given the application, I think this is something that I think we can, at least in my opinion, I think that we can approve. I do think that it's important that, we just kind of keep an eye and make sure that, it seems like one of the big challenges is the comings and goings of customers. And so I think that that would be something that we would just want to perhaps work with, the applicant on to try to help that situation in the R5 district. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and make a motion to approve the medical cannabis registered caregiver new cultivation on-site license, for 161 Guncourt Road, Nature's Miracle LLC.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those, any? You look like you have something you might want to say, Jeff.
No, he's
Okay.
trying to.
Okay, we have a motion on the table, we go ahead and take a vote. Jeff?
I hear what you're saying about, caregivers being a second, that's what you're saying, or that's where it's, I say it all. I just thought, can you make me feel better about the point that I brought, or can anybody on the council make me feel better about the point that I brought up about the positive?
I mean, I guess we could ask.
You guys don't have to answer, that's where I'm struck.
So that's our ordinance that we wrote, that's how we wrote it, correct? But the state of Maine trumps our ordinance, in fact, we really cannot say no. They do not have to come to us to be a registered caregiver in the state of Maine, because OPM or whatever the new term is now for them does not require a registered caregiver that has a license from them to report to their town. So we could have 100 registered caregivers in town right now that don't have a license for us. And until something happens, we'll never know, unless there's a complaint or something happens, we never know. State of Maine doesn't require them to tell us, or will they give us their names? So, yes, our ordinance states that we need an okay from the fire chief and police chief and code enforcement. But if we say no, it's going to get turned around back on us again, because we can't say no to the registered. As far as I'm aware, we cannot trump the state of Maine. The attorney's on. Bill, could you answer that, if you would, please?
I think I heard your question, but let me summarize. Are you asking if the town can deny a registered caregiver from operating in the town of South Berwick? So the statute does allow municipalities to regulate registered caregivers as long as you do not limit the number of caregivers in your town. And you can have an ordinance. You do have an ordinance, but you cannot prohibit or limit the number of registered caregivers. So that's what the state has said. In this case, if you should go through you've gone through the ordinance, you've gone through the application. The one thing I would say is I agree that registered caregivers are allowed anywhere in the community. At this point, you have not zoned them per se, other than a different category, which is not issued this evening, which is a medical marijuana cultivation / growing facility, which is a larger scale, 3 or more registered caregivers. So you're talking about a single registered caregiver, and those are allowed as long as they get a license under this provision of the ordinance.
All right, I think that helps answer our question. Jeff, does that help? Thank you, Phil, for being here and for helping us with that. All right, I think let's go ahead and, I'll go ahead and make a, well, no, we have a motion on the table. Let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor of the motion on the table, and just a reminder, the motion on the table is to approve the medical cannabis registered caregiver new cultivation on-site license, that was submitted by Nature's Miracle LLC at 161 Guncourt Road. All those in favor, say aye. Jeff?
No.
Done.
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes 3-1. All right, we'll move on to new business number 4, amendment to the agreement with Wright Pierce. So Wright Pierce is the, company that is working on, the downtown revitalization plan with us. And, we entered into an agreement with them in October of last year, and essentially the gist is that, there were some additional services that we are being charged for, and we kind of compromised a little bit with Wright Pierce, and they brought that dollar amount down considerably. I know there's a previous discussion about on this topic in previous meetings, the last two in particular that I wasn't able to attend. So anything else that I should add on this topic? Thank you all for coming. Is there anything on the Wright Pierce? Okay.
No, the only thing I'll tell you, is, again, the amount of 8,000 that they asked there for. I do know that when I talked a couple weeks ago, I spoke to the acting chair of that committee, which is Melissa. She asked me to call right there, tell them that they won't need it at the meeting, and Jeff Preble, who is the representative, often becomes the meeting on his own dime, because he didn't want to not have communication with the committee, so he said if that was the sticking issue, that he would just come to the meeting on his own. I have to defer to Council Costello if he did. I need to go to the meeting, so.
Yes. He did attend the last meeting. It was a concern of, in discussion with Tim, of where we still hadn't, voted on this agenda item of, can we really expect somebody to show up when they don't know if they're going to get paid or not? And like I said, Tim reached out, or like Tim said, he reached out to, Jeff, to let him know that we would prefer that he didn't go, because we just didn't think it was fair. And he did say that, he was going to be there himself. He did not bring, anybody else, but he did come.
All right, well, it seems like, it's time, it would make sense to make a motion, so I'll make a motion to approve the additional expenditures of $8,000 to come from the Pumpkin Town TIP, to go to Wright Pierce for the additional time and work done on the downtown revitalization plan.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, any discussion? All those in favor say
Natalie.
yes.
In discussion of this, I just have, I'm still not, on board with, allotting this extra money to them. And again, it just goes on principle with my business practices, and I just feel that, it just wasn't done about the right way of however they were told to come to the extra meetings. They, as a company, accountability wise, they should have known that if they're asked to do extra work, then there's a change order that needs to be done, so they can be guaranteed to get compensated for the work, that the extra work that they're expected to do. So that was never done, and I'm just a little disappointed with this whole business practice, and I'm not on board with, giving them this increase in money.
Thank you. All right, we have just a motion on the table, go ahead and take a vote, all those in favor say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa?
No.
Don?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 3-1. And now we can move on to new business number 1, liquor license and permit renewals for the Links at Outlook.
Madam Chair, I move that we accept the liquor license renewal for the Lakes at the Outlook Golf Course. There have been no issues reported, and they have great fireworks and weddings.
Second, all those, or any discussion? Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa?
Aye.
Don?
Aye.
Aye, motion passes 4-0. And moving on to new business number 2, schedule interviews with board. Sorry, yeah.
There's 3 different, applications on that agenda sheet. So there's one for the renewal liquor license, there's one for the auxiliary license, and there's one for special amusement.
Thank you, John.
I was reading the agenda.
Okay. Okay, so we'll scratch that and we'll just do 3 separate motions, for each individual one.
We're good, we got the liquor license, we're good.
Okay. Okay, we'll do the additional, okay.
So, Madam Chair, I move to approve the auxiliary license for the Lakes at Outlook Golf Course. Again, there have been no issues reported.
Second.
Thank you, motion and a second, all those in favor say aye. Jeff? Yeah.
What is the auxiliary license? Maybe I missed it.
It's a mobile service. part.
Yep. All right, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor, say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Done. Melissa?
I,
Aye. Motion passes 4-0. And
Madam Chair, I vote to approve the special amusement permit for the lanes at Outlook Golf Course. Waiving the right for a public hearing, to pass practice, and we're working on getting that fixed with Diane.
Second.
thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
Melissa?
I,
John? Aye. Motion passes 4-0. All right, that takes care of all of our business. Town managers reports. I'll turn it over to Tim and Jen.
schedule interviews. Oh,
I will not turn it over to Tim and Jen. Sorry, I scratched that one off early. We have several applicants for the various boards. Here in South Berwick, we've got how many applicants? Four. We have 4 applicants. My suggestion is, I think if we could try to schedule an executive session ahead of our meeting, our next meeting, which would be August 27th. If we've got 4, we could be, is everybody available like 5:30? 2 weeks from today? That's a good answer. Can you 5:30 in 2 weeks?
What time on for you?
5:30, if we could try to stack them all, ahead of the meeting on the 27th. So Tana, if you could reach out to each of the individual candidates, see if they can come in sometime in that 5:30 to 6:30 window, and if not, we can find another time and be flexible with them. Thank you. Okay, so I'll go ahead and make a motion to schedule those interviews, but with the 4 candidates, which I'll read off really quickly. We have Glenn Bowe for the Historic District Commission, James Flynn for the Historic District Committee, Daniel Maxton with the Conservation Commission, and Daniel Flagstrom for Historic District Committee. Those are the 4 applicants that we're looking to interview on the 27th. I made a motion, did I? Yes. Second?
Yes, second. I was just looking at the application, thinking we have an issue, but we can discuss it during the interviews.
Yeah, we have a motion on the table. All those in favor of scheduling interviews for the 27th, say aye. Jeff?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
I,
Aye, motion passes 4-0. Tanya, just let us know what happened to that. Thank you so much. All right, now, Tim and Jen.
So for the highway department, they graded Denver Road and paved Black Swan Drive. They widened road fields cul-de-sac due to removing the top sidewalk that was crumbling. Centerline striping has been done, the new safety stripe on the crosswalk, which was a suggestion from one of the citizens that we followed up on. I think has been done, or is being done. I've heard a lot of positive comments about it, so it seems to have been a good idea. They cleaned up the brush from around Paul Street parking lot, and they ground the stumps out here at the town hall. And the lumen seeded that. Police department have had 3 arrests, 4 accidents, 153 traffic stops. They did the National Night Out last Tuesday. It was a huge success and well attended with over 500 people. I'd like to thank the police department for putting it on, sponsoring it. The police chief for his hard work. Wendy Morrison, who organized the whole event. Bridget, the fire department for helping out. And all the other organizations that participated, and I can't list them all, the rec department, Nikki. The fire department had a safety smoke trailer. And this was the first time we've done it in this town. It was organized by Chief Ruger and Wendy Morrison. It was a huge success, a lot of positive comments back. They've already started working on next year and expanding it next year, so. Good job to them, and we certainly a good community effort. Fire department has had 19 calls in the last 3 weeks, with 273 year to date. On July 29th, Lieutenant Glowman and Chief Hamill traveled to gas manufacturing in Appleton, Wisconsin for pre-construction meeting and approval meetings for the new fire truck. They spent 2.5 long days reviewing virtually every aspect of the new truck and toured 3 large gas manufacturing locations in Appleton, Wisconsin. This is the final design of what's been submitted. So this is the final drawing, so then what happens from here is they now have given it a production date number, which means it will go into production in early September, and they're hoping to have it built and delivered to us sometime late February or early March. The truck that we bought, thanks to the citizens and the support from the council, with an early purchase, we paid $826,000 for this. In 2022, it's taken us long to get it built. While they were out there, Nick asked them today, if we ordered that truck today, this exact, what you're seeing in front of you, they said that exact truck to build today would be 1.4 million.
Sorry, 800?
We paid $826,000 in 22 because we did a pre-order, pre-early contract instead of waiting till now to get it and then do the contract on the very end. Today, it's valued at 1.4 million. That would have been the cost if we bought it today. So Nick and Chief Roussel and everybody did a great job having the foresight to plan ahead in order to had saved us $400,000 or $500,000. Code enforcement had 10 building permits, 4 plumbing permits, 26 inspections, 1 violation. Seacoast Christian School gym is down, they're in process of removing concrete this week, waiting on the fire marshal's approval. Their construction plans, which could be in October. Under planning, code revision, the people who do the blue book, this blue book right here, which is, General Code Publishing Company, they have provided us a contract. They did it last year. Paul Shoemaker has reviewed the contract. It's for the whole book. It's not just the land use ordinance. They're gonna go through and make sure every chapter is concurrent with state law, state code, and then we'll have the chance to add in our add-ons from there with both land use. And we have Betsy starting to work on a personnel policy, so finally, we'll be able to get our land use, all that stuff updated, and our personnel policies all updated to new standards. So that'll be exciting. That was put in the budget. That was budgeted, that you approved. And then the site plan amendment for Sandville Estates was denied, the fact findings have been tabled in the new form. Then the transfer station waste hauling I attended a negotiation waste hauling contract meeting at North Berwick with I'm on that negotiating committee. We only had 3 bidders, Waste Management, Casella, and Eco Maine. We reviewed all their proposals and they've come up with alternate proposals that we have sent back. Wayne, Town Manager, and North Berwick sent them back this week, and now we just wait to see where we're going. I guess the news that I'll report, the stumbling block is all they want to give us a 5-year contract. We don't want a 5-year contract because that doesn't benefit us. We want a 20-year contract. The longer the better we can set the rates, the better we can plan for it. Nobody is giving us a 5-year contract because right now, the only landfill site in the state of Maine, Oakland, is running out of its permit in 5 years. The state EDP has not given Casella or anybody else either a new location or an extension of that. So essentially, right now, we're waiting, everybody's on hold, waiting to find out what we're gonna do in 5 years if we don't have waste disposal. So we're kind of trying to negotiate concept that, okay, what if we sign for 5 years, but if it goes through and passes, can we get an addendum to go for the 15 years or something like that? So that's kind of where negotiations are left. We sent 3 proposals back, now they'll count them back, and then we'll go back and redo it. The backhoe for the transfer station lost 2 of its hydraulic seals in the rear arm. And we had to order the parts, and Public Works repaired that last week, and that's been put back. Library.
At the library for the month of July, there was 2,654 visitors, 2,714 items were checked out, and 38 items belonged from other libraries, even though the state van service has been suspended. He's been working with other libraries in the local community to get the people what they've asked for. 2 items have been lent out, 28 programs held a total attendance of 367 people. And there's been 113 computer sign-ups. Lunch for the town employee will be Tuesday, the 20th, with Mallory, the town council chair. That will be at noon time. There'll be pizza provided for anyone who has any questions for her. Economic development, we did the update on the comprehensive plan. Downtown revitalization, the group went through their final recommendations last Monday on the 5th, and I'm putting final touches on the document, which will be sent to the town council and a presentation to follow. Eastern Trail feasibility study, the proposed segment location for the Eastern Trail from downtown North Berwick to the intersection of Wichita 91 and 236 has been presented in a draft report. Recreation, summer camp has wrapped up on August 2nd. They had a great summer, great staff, and a wonderful group of kids, already planning for next year. The challenge soccer camp took place last week. There was about 70 kids who attended. The youth soccer program kicks off on the first week of September, starting to publicize for all of their different fall programming. And there'll be a new dance class in collaboration with Berwick Academy this year. So they're excited about that. The soccer field will be closing this Friday, August 16th, for the next 2 weeks to do some work in the fields and get a new top dressed. Seniors are heading to Inner Lakes Theater on Wednesday, tomorrow, to see the $1 Million Quartet. And their next luncheon is on August 21st. Assessing the townwide reevaluation, KRT is now working along York Woods Road. The next batch of postcards will be going out this week for Wichita and Earls Road areas. Cardiographic Associates is working on the April 1st map changes in the assessing department, and we hope those will be online shortly. In my department, I've had 12 business meetings, 30 staff meetings in the last 3 weeks, also snuck in a week's vacation last week. A test run of the tax bill data was sent to the printer last week, and everything has been looking good. So we will move forward with that tomorrow. Now that we have the tax mill rate set, that will go to the printer tomorrow. We will approve those and we will go out the week of August 19th. FEMA update, the January flooding storm has a total of about $420,000. That work is now all complete. The April snowstorm is about $80,000. The only pending repair is the electrical work at Powder House Hill. Jay Reddy Marker and I will be meeting FEMA for an inspection tomorrow morning on the top of the Powder House Hill. They have to replace the line all the way from the top, all the way to the bottom. They got pulled out of that top engine room during one of the storms. The tree fell on them and pulled it out. Temporarily fixed it, but now it needs to be permanently repaired. Before I went on vacation, I created the spreadsheets that you saw with all the mill rates. Tim and I worked together on that. I am scheduling interviews for both the clerk's office and the economic planning position that we have open. And I continue to work on year-end prepping for our audit that will be in September.
Working on economic, my office, working on economic development plan reviews. We met, I met with a citizen, received a complaint about a business in a residential zone. The sewer district will be renting the office up there that they had for years. Their building has been sold, they got evicted. They came and asked if they could come back. I don't know why they were kicked out by the previous town manager, but I said, if you want to pay for the office, if you want to renovate the office yourself, that, which was a storage closet, clerk moved her stuff out and moved a storage closet. They're gonna pay us $850 a month. The only other contacted by the US Navy, they wanted to know if we would be a host community for a submarine that is coming into dock in the fall. And, so they called, we were recommended by Malcolm Kenny. And basically what it is submarines coming in for an overhaul, they'll be here for 2 years. And most of them are not from around here, so they look for a community to adopt them, so to speak. And what that submarine will do is they'll come out, crews will come out during the 2 years. They'll work with the community, they'll provide us they'll do volunteer work at any strawberry festival, the holiday stuff. Veterans Day, they'll speak. They'll just get involved in the community, kind of learn the community, know the community, be adopted, just so they don't stay at the yard for 2 years and not have any place to go, anything to do. We'll give them projects, they kind of get adopted, and we get to know them. The ship of the USS Washington will be in this fall. What would happen is they would come and meet with you here, present their command staff would come here, and we would present them a little certificate welcoming them, and it's a good community thing. And it's, they'll be here for 2 years, they clean up cemeteries, they'll help with parks and recreation, they'll go over and help serve seniors, they'll do whatever we ask of them for 2 years. They just offer their help to the community so they can get involved and be involved. And so I thought it was a great opportunity for us to welcome a submarine crew here and become a host community for them and get to know them and welcome them to our town. That's all I know.
No. Yeah,
Go ahead, go ahead.
when does that start?
When
does
does-
the submarine start?
They're supposed to be in dock sometime in late September, and they said it'd take a lot of months, so probably around the end of October or first of November.
They can volunteer for soup supper first Wednesday in November.
Yeah, so anything, so one of the things is, you know, like in the spring cleanup of the trails, they'll certainly help with that. The liaison and talking, maybe said that, you know, they just want to participate in the community, welcome to the community. So, John works at the ad, anything you can add, anything you can tell us?
No, it's a great boat. I got a team down working on it right now in Washington, in Virginia. They're a good boat. And it's been a thing in the community. It's been a host thing. York's done it, Kerry's done it, Portland's done it. They usually reach out. I'm trying to remember the last boat that reached out here, but it was quite a while ago. You remember?
I don't, and I'm not really involved with that portion, but I'm surprised we haven't been a host community. Maybe we had magazine here.
I think we have, but I think it was the Albuquerque back 20 years ago, but yeah, it's a great effort.
Yeah.
Good thing.
I'm excited about that. I know based on starting from the council, team, the employees and the citizens that will be very welcoming for these people. The liaison was saying exactly that. He said a lot of the sailors are not from the Northeast, they're from, you know, South, West and so forth. So they don't have family here, they don't have any. So I think it'll be neat. We have the Strawberry Festival, we have the holiday stuff. You know, we do a bunch of stuff and they just want to be involved. So I think we welcome them and invite them to our community, show them how friendly we can be. And
We should let the school district know about this as well.
Yeah.
Because there could be some opportunities with the school.
yeah, they'll do presentations at the school, they'll do all kinds of stuff. They'll help at whatever, any kind of civic event, they can help at. They're willing to help, they want to help. And that's what they do. And then it runs out about a year and a half in the program because they have to get ready to get back on the ship and so forth. But I just thought it'd be a great opportunity. They were often nice and yes.
Definitely. Cool, thank you.
That's all I have.
All right, we'll move to council member comments. John?
Public service announcement. The scouts are on the move, so if you have dogs, make sure you have peroxide, baking soda and Dawn dish soap in your house because it works fantastic. You get the smell of it.
Thank you.
That's all I got.
Jack?
No, I just, I think I don't have any.
Okay.
Actually, Jeff does have. So he asked me a question by email. We have that answer. I've had the clerk do the research on that. So Jeff, can you bring that? You mention that so we can answer your question for you. It was about the dogs.
Yeah, so I had asked about our municipal rules and regulations in regards to about dogs at town hall and a couple of at our municipal properties, just
During election.
during elections. especially.
So I had the clerk call Dustin to get that answer. So Madam Clerk, will you?
So there are no specific rules around dogs, being at the polls. It follows municipal, rules where they would have to be leashed. And if they are to be wearing like a vest or anything like that, or, you know, there's pins on the leash or anything of that sort, they fall under the same rules that any individual would fall under with solicitation. So the dog cannot be wearing go biding or go trump or anything like that. But they are welcome as long as they're leashed.
Good to know. Melissa? Okay, the only thing I have, it does pertain also to election day. I just want to let everybody know that absentee ballots requests are now available. If you would like to vote absentee, that request is available, doesn't mean the ballot is available, but you can at least submit it. Also, town staff are going to be meeting monthly, between now and the election to ensure a safe, smooth, and hopefully enjoyable voting experience for folks here. And we are still in need of poll workers, yes, Diane. So if anyone is interested in working the polls on November fifth, you can reach out to our town clerk, Diane. Polls will be open from November fifth, from 8 to 8 p.m., 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., sorry. Start making a plan to vote, ask your friends, family, neighbors, what their plan is to vote. Voting this year is going to be so incredibly important. Make sure everyone you know is going to vote. And I'm also a humongous fan of the new crosswalks, so, thank you. That's all I have. John, you want to adjourn us?
Madam Chair, I move adjourned.
Thank you. Second, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Thanks, George. Thank you for coming, everyone.
Very important.